Take your pentatonic playing into hexatonic hyperspace using this awesome wide interval tapping pattern. Well, hey there kids, it's your good buddy, Uncle Ben. If you're anything like me, you've probably found yourself locked into that familiar pentatonic box shape that we all use with no hope of escape in sight, doomed to spend an eternity playing stepdad blues licks. But we can all take a tip from monster players like Joel Hoekstra and Guthrie Govan, who frequently employ some wide interval tapping into their pentatonic playing to shake it up. This easy to visualize string skipping tapped pattern that I came up with here also adds in the 9th degree of the scale for a little bit more tonal interest, and it's sure to turn you into a more better shredder. As always, downloadable tabs, backing tracks, bonus lessons, and so much more are available to everybody who supports my channel over on my Patreon page, patreon.com/BenEllerGuitars. This week, all of my patrons, even at just the $1 a month level, get access to a very special bonus lesson to go along with this one, showing you guys one of my other favorite minor pentatonic tapping patterns, as well as access to a ton of practice tracks that I made of that intro lick that you heard at a variety of different speeds. I'll also be uploading the MIDI files, that way you can create your own practice track in your DAW of choice. And don't forget, your monetary contributions go towards buying treats for these two puppers. Look at them! So don't delay, click the Patreon link in the video description below and sign up today. Thanks! Gear-wise for today's video, I've got my lovely Sir Modern T right here going into the Fractal Audio Axe FX 3. I've also got this vintage DoD grunge pedal. I'm not using it, I just thought I'd point that out. Alright, yeah, first things first, let's talk about the pattern itself and the technique that you need to play it. Now, you can play this while still hanging onto your pick. You can use your middle finger and your ring finger to do the tapping, or even just your middle finger, depending on the speed that you're playing this at. But if you'd like to get your first finger involved in the tapping action, you can actually take your pick and slide it up to the side of your hand, like that right there, and that'll free up your first finger to be able to get in on the tapping fun as well, and then you can just slide it right back whenever it's time to get back into picking. So choose wisely, whatever works the best for you. Let's talk about the left hand shape that's going on right here. It's really easy to see, and I'm basing this around the A minor pentatonic scale, but we can move this around to suit whatever key that we're in. Now, in the left hand here, we're going to have 12 and 15 on our A string. That's A and C. Then we're going to skip a string here and go to the G string, where we're going to have 12 and 14, G and A. And then on the high E string, you're going to play 12 and 15, E and G. So we have A, C, G, A, E, G. You could also just think of that as using your first and fourth finger, first and third, first and fourth. Again, really easy to see that pattern. We're going to be using our right hand here to tap a third note onto each one of those strings. And the best way to visualize it is off of that first shape of the left hand, put your first tap a whole step above the highest note. So wherever your little finger is, tap a whole step above that one, okay? In this case, it's going to be fret number 17, the D note. That fret that you just found is the fret that you're going to tap onto all of these other strings, like this. Same fret again. Now you'll notice there that I'm playing that with that kind of Eddie Van Halen style hammer-on from nowhere. You just got to do a really firm, quick hammer-on with the left hand to set the string into motion before you can hammer on and tap the rest of the notes onto every string. So in the intro lick, all I did is to play up and down that pattern, like this. After this, all that we've got to do is to move everything that we were tapping up a whole step. So in this case, we're going to be up here on fret number 19. Just play the same stuff, same shape in the left hand. We're just going to move up the tapping up here to the 19. A, C, E, G, A, D, E, G, B. Now this high note that we played up here, the B note, isn't traditionally a part of a minor pentatonic scale. A minor pentatonic would be A, C, D, E, G, A. That doesn't include that B note. But whenever we add in that B, which you could call the second or the ninth, depending on however you're looking at it, we end up with something called a minor hexatonic scale, which is something you've heard Eric Johnson use, Joe Bonamassa use, all kinds of players that play pentatonic stuff, but don't really make it sound super bluesy all the time. They're usually adding in that 9th degree just to kind of make it sound a little bit more minor and less bluesy. Pretty much anywhere that you're using a minor pentatonic, you can use a minor hexatonic. That's not a set in stone rule. Use your ears to help you decide, but generally speaking, if you're using one, you can use the other two. And what you heard in the intro is just me playing up and down the first pattern, then moving the tapping up a whole step and playing up and down that pattern. Should sound something like this. I showed you that pattern there. It's rooted off of the 5th string for the root note, but the cool thing about this is too, is if you're using your standard, low E string root note scale pattern that we all know, you can do this exact same pattern using the E, D, and B strings. The shapes are exactly the same. In the left hand, you're going to have fingers 1-4, 1-3 on the D string, 1-4 on the B. Again, same stuff you played here. And just like before, the tapped notes are going to go a whole step above the 4th finger. In this case, this lands us on the 10th fret. And then just like before, we can move the tap notes up a whole step. That way we can get a little bit of that extended range tapping action happening no matter what position of the scale we're using. So I really like how wide the intervals of the scale get whenever we incorporate that tapping. Of course, if you have like Allen Holdsworth fingers, you could probably do that entire thing without, adding in the right hand right there, but myself, it helps me a lot to add the tapping in. Crazy thing is this is all stuff that would be accessible to you in any standard minor pentatonic kind of scale pattern. Like if I was playing A minor pentatonic right here, I could play that entire first lick if I was using some really crazy phrasing like that. It's just like there's all these cool things lurking inside of a minor pentatonic scale, but most of us just play straight up and down it and don't take advantage of how cool some of those intervals in that scale are. For a cleaner sound, a lot of players like to use a fret wrap or a scrunchie or something like that around the strings of the guitar. If that works for you, go for it. I have this hair tie back here behind the nut just to kill out any ring going on back there, so it's not actually muting anything. I've spent years kind of working on my muting technique while I'm tapping to get a good clean sound, so that way I don't have to have a scrunchie or anything like that. I don't have to go raiding my stepmom's boudoir and taking her stuff. Here's some of the keys to getting a good clean sound whenever you are tapping across multiple strings like this. Okay, so I'd say the most common problem that you're going to run into is whenever you're doing the string skips, right? Here's what's probably going to happen at first. A bunch of open string ring just from our fingers coming off, right? Even if you're not like plucking it or anything like that, just the simple act of coming off of the string too hard will sound out an open string and make it start vibrating like that. What you've got to do is this, and I've talked about this several times on my channel before. You've got to use that full and empty mentality. Get rid of an on and off idea when it comes to fretting, and replace it with this notion that you can have a finger that's full of energy while it's fretting a note, and then it just empties out. Now you'll notice that whenever I emptied that finger out, I didn't lift it away. That's still energy. That's just energy going this way instead of that way. We want lack of energy. Just relax. And you'll notice that your finger just loosening up like that will mute that string and kill it, so it doesn't have open string ring like that going on. Be sure to do this nice and slow, that way you can keep that full and empty mentality at the forefront of your concentration here. It's full, then just empty it. That'll mute the string. Then you can go to the next one, seamlessly, full and empty, and make the transitions really smooth sounding like that. It's also beneficial too to think about the role of the tapping hand here and the way that it can progressively cover and uncover unused strings. So in other words, check this out. Whenever I move to the G string, the palm of my right hand here is now covering E, A, and D strings. I've got those just kind of mashed down like that. And don't be afraid to put some pressure on it too. It's okay to kind of like mash your hand into the strings. It'll make a little bit of noise, but it'll be covered up by the tapping that you're doing in front of it. So don't worry about adding a little pressure in. It's better to have too much muting pressure than not enough, you know? So as you go through here, the right hand is kind of progressively covering those strings up and uncovering them as we descend. See if you can get a look at this right here. Now another thing you want to watch for here is any bleed over between the tapped note on one string and the first hammer-on note on the next string. You don't want to hear those bleeding into each other like this. It gets really kind of murky sounding whenever you do that. What you got to concentrate on is emptying this finger out the minute that you fill this one up. It's kind of like you'll never have two fingers that are mashing at the exact same time. It's like as this one lets off, this one mashes down. The visual I keep thinking of in my head here is like Indiana Jones taking the idol and replacing it with the sandbag, you know, only without the disastrous boulder that comes after you. That shouldn't happen if you do this right, although I can't make any guarantees. I really recommend just taking those first four notes and just kind of grooving those for a little while. Making sure you don't have any kind of a gap in between this note and that note happening. You don't want that sound right there. You want it to be really smooth and not even hear the transition in between the two notes, but you also don't want it to overlap. So just kind of groove this for a little while. Really concentrate on making sure that last note is super clean. I'd also encourage you guys to mix up your phrasing inside of that shape right there. Now, obviously in the intro, we just kind of played up and down that shape to help you hear it and visualize it and stuff. But the sky's the limit when it comes to possibilities of how many different ways you could arrange those notes. I want something like... Cool stuff. So there you go, guys, a super cool new shape to add some spice into your pentatonic life. Be sure to tag me on the Instagram with any cool licks that you come up with using that pattern. I'm @BenEllerGuitars. And be sure to click that Patreon link in the video description below, sign up today, and start reaping the benefits. Like I said, for this week, even at just a $1 a month level, you're going to get all kinds of practice tracks to go along with this lesson, as well as an additional bonus lesson showing you another cool minor pentatonic tapping pattern. So be sure to sign up today. A winner is you. Thanks for liking this video and subscribing. Be sure to ring the bell for notifications every time I upload a new slice of fried gold. It's been fun as always, but now it's time for you to take this sick shape and put it to use. Less clicking, more picking.